Welcome, everybody. Today, I'd like to introduce to you a very special friend, someone I've known for 30, 40 years, and he's a master of his craft, very passionate and always an inspiration. He's also been a personal healer when I've had certain injuries, so I have a lot of respect for this beautiful man, Simon Borg-Olivier. I'd just like to read a little bit about your bio. Simon is a highly respected Australian yoga teacher, therapist, certified yoga therapist, and co-director of Yoga Synergy, one of the oldest and most influential yoga schools in the country here in Australia. His journey with yoga began at an early age of 6 years through breath retention practices introduced by his father and matured through later training under a Tibetan Lama and other notable masters or teachers like BKS Iyengar. Simon is perhaps best known for his signature work, Applied Anatomy and Physiology of Yoga, co-authored with Bianca Machliss. And there they explore how postures, movement, breath, and energy flow intersect with the musculoskeletal and organ systems. He's recognized internationally. Simon is frequently invited to teach at conferences and yoga training programs across the globe. And he's so hard to find. Every time I try to contact him, he's overseas somewhere. So welcome, Simon. Thanks for joining me today.
Jane, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed our connection going back nearly 40 years. I think we first met each other. It's like
Yeah.
38 years, I think exactly. But it's amazing, and I totally respect everything you do, and it's inspired me so much in my exploration of the body. So to have a talk with you about the intersection between your work in sacred geometry and mathematics and my understanding of the biomechanics and movements and energy flow inside the body, it's magic for me. It's a pleasure to be here with you now.
And the way it all started was through inversion. So I'm walking along Bondi Beach because my family are in Sydney, and I'm just strolling down and I see this amazing character who's inverted. He's doing a headstand on the beach, completely unashamed, free, and then I waited, I hanged around, I just wanted to talk to him. I was just so amazed by this emblem of health and happiness and authenticity. So we became friends, and I think I even met you. I visited you once in Bondi, and you showed me this amazing book on biomechanics that you and Bianca had authored. And so I've always held you as like a scholar or like a doctor, anatomy, like you're fully a true doctor. In the old days was an astronomer, geographer. There were many things, and to see that you had fully researched the physical body gave me a lot of respect to your work.
No, bless you, Jane. Yeah, no, it's been an ongoing exploration. I think the first time we actually chatted, you were giving lectures on sacred geometry. I was giving talks and classes on yoga. It was a festival in Thora in 1987.
Oh, yes, way back, Thora,
Yeah.
yes.
But yeah. In those days, though, I remember standing on my head in public and people thought it was very strange. Now, yoga became very mainstream, and it's to me a lot of traditional yoga is lost. What we're mostly seeing is a version which people think is yoga, which looks to me a lot more like the aerobics of the 2000s. Whereas to me, real yoga, the yoga that I learned from my Tibetan masters, was the ability to control your internal energy systems. And
Mm.
that to me is much more important. The way the spine moves, the way you move blood through your body is very much connected. And so to me, ultimate yoga is not about stretching or tensing muscles or breathing more. It's about controlling energy flow inside the body. And I think work is very much linked to this idea of moving energy and, the sacred connections between things.
And what you represent to me is health. So I've got this image here. In my work with sacred geometry, the most important diagram is on fractality. It's called the five-pointed star because every protein in our body, which represents DNA in a way, is based on the pentagon and hexagon, the five and the six. So here we have a pentagram within the pentagram within the pentagram. It goes forever. So the tribe that worshipped this 2,500 years ago, at the time of Buddha, were the Pythagoreans. They were a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And the emblem for the school, if you wanted to join this school, you had to fast for a year, and you also had to be silent for another year. So there was a lot of discipline. And I'm talking about where sacred geometry relates to this concept of health, because the emblem of the school had five Greek letters on the 5 points of the pentagram. You had the H, Y, G, I, A in ancient Macedonian, and it spells Hygeia, which is the goddess of health. So that's really what I was wanting to sort of talk about today, was that your work and my work, how we intersect with discipline. Without discipline, you can be a genius or a scholar, but if the body goes, everything goes. It's our temple, our foundation. So that's what you represent to me, how we can keep our body restored and filled with prana and light and energy. So yeah, go. Yeah.
But that's actually very wonderful to hear that, because the exploration that I've made over my life, beginning with my father as a free diver when I was 6, and Indian yogis teaching me internal movements of the internal organs when I was 8, and then my Tibetan Lama in my teens, then my exploration in India with people like Mr. Iyengar, Patabi Joyce of the Ashtanga and alignment-based yoga systems of today. Then I forayed into Western physiotherapy, medical science with 3 degrees in human biology. And then I forayed a lot the last 20 years into Chinese internal movement, Qigong, martial arts. And what I found, the one common theme, which is all of these things have one thing in common, and that all traditional movement, all thought, all breath, has to start at the core of your body. And this idea is also linked with the Western idea of the gut brain, the enteric nervous system, which is the core of your body, which is this massive network of nerves, which is around your gut or in the lower abdomen. And also the physiotherapy concept, you hear a lot about drawing the lower abdomen inwards and engaging your lower abdomen. All of these things relate to the idea that the core is very important. They call it the Dantian in China, the Khanda in India, Nadu Kuru in indigenous cultures of Australia, the Hara in Japan. But all of this idea relates to the idea that the core is the main functional place where all movement starts. But the core, which is a manifestation of our trunk, the smallest part of our trunk, which is a larger version of our spine, can move in 5 main ways. There's your spine, fantastic. Well,
So you're saying all movement comes from the trunk,
yes, yes.
all these special movements, yeah.
Yes, yes. And everyone knows the spine can move in 3 ways: forward, backward, side, side, twist, twist. But it also lengthens and shortens. But one thing the trunk can do, which the spine can't, is it expands and contracts, which is what affects breathing and blood flow. So all my work, which is, some people think I'm a yoga teacher, but I've also had many years as a physiotherapist, a Qigong instructor, and connecting all traditional movement forms. The common theme of all of them is that the core is at the center of our movement, and the trunk has to move, and it moves in 5 main ways. So I call my system 5-dimensional flow. So the fact that you mentioned 5 at the beginning of our talk is very important to me. And this 5-pointed star, actually, this is how the trunk can move. The trunk can move forward and backward, side to side, expanding, contracting, lengthening and shortening, and twisting forward and twisting left and right. So when your trunk or spine moves, you've got 5 main ways of movement, which make this pentagram type shape, which is what you were talking about, which I really, really resonate with so much. And these 5 ways of moving, you can talk about many different ways. So I have many different ways of describing how the body works in 5 main ways. And so, I call it 5-dimensional flow. And in the end, it gives you, physical health, physiological health, mental health, and also social and lifestyle health, which is also 5 ways. So actually, when you talk about these five main ways of movement, then each of them has an extreme end, either one way or the other way. So there's then 32 possible ways of movement. And when you keep it simple, like when the spine moves, the spine can move in three main ways, and then it's 2 to the power of 3, which makes this wonderful 8. And a lot of the movements that I make the shape of the figure 8, which if you turn it sideways becomes the infinity sign. And the infinity sign, of course, is a very important symbol. Yes, this beautiful toroidal like
Got a
structure, which,
shadow on it. Yeah, figure eight,
yes,
which is the
which
cut.
creates this crossover effect we get in the brain.
And what's interesting down here, you got the center of an apple is a pentagram as well.
Wow, beautiful, huh?
I put the apple here inside the torus to show the deep connection to health, the apple representing the seeds of regeneration inside the torus. So this
Yes.
infinity symbol that Simon's talking about is the cross section of a three-dimensional sphere. This is actually a fourth dimensional sphere where it's imploded. So this torus can suck energy in like that, but conversely it can spit energy out. So it's an in and out. It's like a yin yang because Simon's
Oh,
work's got a lot to
beautiful.
do with yin yang balance.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but so when we cut this in half, if I was to cut this in half, it's called a transverse cut. Um, I'll grab the torus. So this is the torus again, talking about the spine, the movement of the spine. So when you take this slinky and join it, if you were to join it from end to end like this,
Yes.
end up with a slinky, right?
Yeah.
But what Simon's showing is the cut when we cut the torus in half, we end up with the infinity symbol or the figure eight, like Simon was talking about the eight movements, but
Yes.
somehow it's all embedded in this construct of the torus or slinky.
It's absolutely fascinating. I like the fact that, if you have three types of movement of the spine, then 2 to the power of 3 is 8. But then when you start moving, you actually start to make the shape of the figure 8 in the movement. If you combine side bending and twisting at the same time, you get these beautiful movements, which here, if I show them, and I'll just speed it up a little bit, you can see myself and Anna, my assistant, moving, side bending and twisting, and you create these figure eights, the shape of the body in this figure eight way, and we move in different movement patterns. But when you go side bend plus twist, in the beginning, if you just move your body, then you get like a circle. But as soon as you start moving your body in three-dimensional space, it turns into a figure eight. I'll go a little bit faster.
And what's empowering is that we're healing ourselves. We're not telling the universe, oh, that's I'm sick, someone has to cure me. Here you're making the effort to say, I need to work on myself, be my own doctor, and take responsibility for my health care.
Exactly. Exactly. When you start moving the body in these ways of flowing in figure eights and in other ways, like we'll demonstrate in a moment, you can move in any direction. But the most important thing is flow. And when you start getting this flowing effect in the body, then the movements can take you anywhere. You get incredible vitality, incredible health. You can get speed. You can get blood flow. And what we want really ideally for ultimate health is excellent blood flow, the blood moving effortlessly through your body, but without the heart racing. And these two things of effortless blood flow without the heart racing in a way where you're totally relaxed are the things you want for optimum physiological health to get
When
the
I when
these
I see you doing these movements, it looks like you're playing, you're having fun.
yes, it's
And
such fun.
the image that arises is this idea of a baby being really flexible. Can you just say a little bit about like copying the baby's movement or energy or because
Yes,
it's
yes.
really
Well,
profound. Yeah.
you know, the babies are the picture of health. They're the picture of health and vitality. So I've often studied babies, and when you see a baby moves, it moves in these figure eight patterns. Like when they crawl, they're moving in a way which is crossing the body over. And when a baby breathes, the diaphragm has this most incredible movement, which in the beginning is an up-down movement, but eventually becomes a side-to-side movement. And so what you see in a baby is a wave-like pattern in their abdomen, and that wave-like pattern is the diaphragm moving up and down. It's lost a lot in adults, but many people think that the diaphragm is just a muscle which moves up and down like a dome shape, but actually it moves side to side as well. And The diaphragm is connected to your psoas muscle. The psoas is a muscle at the front of the hip. This is a picture of me there.
Well,
Actually, should I?
would you be able to show us a demonstration of Nauli, which
Yes,
because by doing the core, our abdomen, we're doing the whole body essentially, are we? By
yes,
working
yes,
on the center of our being, we're working the whole body, is it? Can you
yes.
show us a demonstration of that little video?
Sure, sure. If I before I share my screen, if I can just first show you on myself, you
Oh
see a
yeah.
lot of people talk about the abdomen as being the core tightening, but you can move the abdomen up and down like this. And when you move the abdomen up and down like this, and you show a baby will copy you almost straight away. Their diaphragm is able to move in a wave-like fashion. And many people think that the diaphragm is something which is just a muscle going contract, expand. But anything in the universe which moves back and forth in the same direction or dimension loses energy. Like a car moving back and forth, it will brake and accelerate. But if you take a car in to go not just left or right or forward and backward, but make it go in a circle or an infinity sign, then energy gets generated, not lost. And so moving the body in a fluid way is important. But this starts at your core, and the top of your core is your diaphragm. So when you see a baby's natural wave-like movement going up and down, that represents what in yoga we call Kapalabhati Kriya. And Kriya is essentially how to connect the thinking brain in your head with the gut brain at your core. And so apart from this up and down movement that I demonstrated just then, you can do a movement which is side to side, and that's called Nauli Kriya, and I'll demonstrate that here. And it looks,
Nauli, I think means a wave. It means a wave.
yes, it's a wave-like thing. And if I put it here, let me see this one, and I go to here and share this one here. So if I turn it on here, you can see this movement. So this is Nauli Kriya.
Mm,
You can see
amazing.
my
Wow.
abdomen moving side to side. And this I can do without breathing, but I also do it with breathing.
Mm.
And so I can do it while breathing or not breathing. But essentially, these two extreme kriyas or cleansing processes of yoga, which are the first step of hatha yoga, can be done horizontally or vertically, or you can, in fact, you can do it in any direction. So, I can make my abdomen move up and down or side to side or in any direction diagonally. And when you can move your core in any direction, you can take your trunk and your arms and legs in any direction, but it's always a smooth movement. And these movements,
You would be a great belly dancer then.
yeah, yeah, it's belly dancing is a wonderful thing. But the thing is then if the movement starts at your core, you get much better power, a sense of much more strength without tension, without having to use just your extremities. You're using your whole body to move. And then at the same time, your internal organs work, so you get physiological health. Blood flows very effectively while you're feeling really relaxed. And then at the same time, your mind is connected not just as the logical thinking one in the head, but also the intuitive gut brain of the core work together. And you get much better overall health physically, physiologically, and mentally when you recognize these mathematical links inside the body and you start to take control of them in a way where the normal adult, which is an actually a very unnatural person, becomes much closer to the natural state of the child, which moves in this much more fluid way. And I believe that true yoga is the recognition that we are connected as one, but we've lost that connection, that natural state through things like sitting on chairs, a very asymmetrical lifestyle. And when you start restoring natural movement, natural breathing inside the body, that's the first step you can take toward the supernatural possibilities that yoga offers. And one of the funny things is that many people think that yoga is about breathing more and getting your heart rate up and stretching and tensing your body. But actually, for me, it's about breathing less. So you breathe less to get more energy. You stretch less, but you get more flexible. You tense less, but you get stronger. And you actually do the opposites of what most people think.
Love it. Wow. Yeah, that pretty much defines you. It's not about breathing more, it's breathing less. It's not about stretching more, it's stretching less. I love the way you contradict the way the the direction yoga has gone and you're redefining it back to its ancient roots, how it was a system of balance and flow and ease and yeah, I really love that.
It's funny that most people in the world think that, they tell you actually in fitness, you should breathe more, you should get your heart rate up. But logically, we know that healthy people run fast, hardly breathe at all, and hardly have their heart beating. So that's actually much healthier than what most people try and do when they go to a fitness class or a yoga class.
Well, I understand from my research with Vedic math that the left eye is connected to the optic nerve here goes to the right cortex and vice versa. The right goes to the left. So from a bird's eye view, I'll show what the optic nerves look like. There's a crossover. There's a crossover point between the two eyes. So there's a point here. It's almost like the blind spot when we can't see in a certain spot because the optic nerves cross. She was a medical medium and she could see. So when we multiply, all our modern multiplication today is done based on X. If you want to do fast, create a new algorithm where we can calculate at the speed of light, the algorithms use this X shape. So we're going to look at this column here. We're going to multiply, say, 2 digits. So if I want to multiply 2 digits in my head in 1 second, I visualize, say, I'm multiplying 12 times 34. So I've got two columns. So this sutra here, sutra in Veda means the thread. So when a yogi is married to the divine or to the God, they wear a thread around their waist. So this thread of wisdom says that we multiply vertically on the right, we multiply vertically on the left, and in the middle we do this crossover. We multiply these two numbers and add the other two. So 12 times 34 would be 2 times 4 is 8. And in the middle here, we've got 1 times 4 plus 2 times 3. So 4 and 6 is 10. We put down the 0, but we carry the 1. And on the left here, we've got 1 times 3 is 3, but we add the 1, it becomes 408. But the yogis can do it in 1 second. So that's a connection I have with Simon. I was teaching your children how to do speed maths, and they were able to master it in just a few months. But that was like yoga of the mind, where we're applying this X shape. So how does that relate? You were talking about this factor of the X factor in your work with yoga and the brain and
I mean, just to reflect on that, I mean, you did some incredible things with my kids. I was so proud of them and so impressed with you that, Eric would be able to multiply things in a few seconds when he was 7 years old. And there's one video you've got on Facebook where it says Eric Borg-Olivier, age 7, faster than a calculator. And he was demonstrating how to multiply, 75 times 75 in a split second and explaining it. And I've got another video I should show, but I haven't got it on me, where Amalia, my daughter at 8, was walking on a tightrope and her teacher's going, Amalia, what's 8 times 88 or 9 times 99? And while she's walking on the tightrope, she's going 726, but just quick as lightning. And what you explained to me at the time was that the left brain and the right brain have to work together. And that's actually when you have optimum health, when you've got both sides of the brain working at the same time. And this idea that the left brain is more logical, the right brain is more visual. And so a lot of my teaching is about this. And you have to appreciate that the left and right side of the body cross over to the brain. So left nostril, left eye, left ear connect with right brain, right hemisphere, and also the parasympathetic nervous system, while the right nostril, right ear, right eye connect with the left brain, which is more logical and more sympathetic nervous system. So balancing your nervous system is very, very important, but left-right asymmetry is very, very important. And one of the oldest, most well-known practices of the breathing system of yoga was this alternate nostril breathing. But when you do this, you actually are accessing both sides of your brain. And that's really, really important. And this crossover that you're talking about, when you take any linear movement and you join the ends, the crossover becomes that figure 8. So actually, when you're doing this figure 8 movement, like I'm doing right now, when I do that, it actually blocks the left side of my neck. So if I bring a twist to the left while my head is going the opposite way, my right nostril is more blocked. My left nostril nostril is more open. When I go the other way, my left nostril is more blocked, my right nostril is more open. So by doing these movements, which are figure eight like movements, you actually start breathing in more through one nostril than the other. And the movements that I go up and down at the same time, that affects your diaphragm. So actually, when you're doing these very simple figure eight movements, you're affecting not just breathing, but also blood flow and also brain function in a way which resembles this idea of
Right.
pranayama yogic breathing. And the crossover effect is very, very important for brain health.
Yeah. So talking about movement, so when we see a really beautiful woman walking, what's happening? What like when a woman walks in that really sensual, natural way, what is she in union with everything? Is she in symmetry?
Yes,
Like what's happening with this the way a beautiful woman can when we exaggerate the way she
yes,
walks?
yes.
How would you
There's a
define?
beautiful journal article. It's a scientific journal published in Belgium in 2008. You can Google the words gait and orgasm, and you find this study where they took women and put them on a treadmill. And on the treadmill, they touched a marker point to the side of the hip, and they watched how much does a woman's hip move back and forth as she walks. Because some women, some men will walk so linearly that their shoulders and hips are not moving. It's just their arms and legs moving. But this is actually very stiff. And a healthy person, a strong person, a healthy woman, say an Olympic runner or Olympic walker will move their hips back and forth a lot as they move, and the shoulders and hips will always cross over. That's natural spinal movement, that's health. And what they observed was when they did this study on women, they had a direct correlation between the intensity and frequency of pelvic rotation back and forth, which is this crossover and makes this figure eight shape, then it was directly proportional to the frequency of orgasm. So when we do all these things, what looks like what we might consider a sexy person's walk, which is actually very fluid, is actually going to enhance reproductive function, sexual function, but also immune, digestive, and internal health function. So it's been recorded scientifically as well.
I wanted to show some images. You're talking about 32 movements, two to the power of five. And the only
32%. Yeah.
information I have, um, I've got all these images here of yogis and meditation, breathing. Just before I go into two to the power of five, when we look at an image like this,
Yes.
like that's a standard something we would do in a yoga class, but is that a very helpful thing? Like what's when we're looking at the dynamics there, this triangulation, is that improving our posture or is it too stressful? What's going
No,
on?
it's really important because what we're doing is we're acknowledging that the core and your trunk, and essentially the trunk is the manifestation of your spine, can move in these uh, 32 different positions. But the most important ones are the ones where the spine moves forward and backward, side to side, and twists. And if at least you can do that, this is one of those positions where the front of your body is getting longer. Essentially, you're bending backwards. And that's really important, especially to counter the effects of daily lifestyle, which in the modern world predominantly is 5 to 15 hours of bending forward, sitting on a chair. So, all the different positions of the body are important to do, and often we get stuck in the modern world in one or two positions, the most frequent of which is just sitting in hip flexion and bending the spine forward. It's not going to help you. You need to bend in all the different directions. This person's a pretty extreme bender of backwards, but
Found a few images of this person. I don't know who he is. I was going to ask you. This is quite extreme,
extreme.
but it just shows the power of the human unlimitedness, what we can do with our body.
Yes, yes, it's amazing. But you notice the problem with this, and unfortunately, it can give yoga a bad name because
Yes.
if you see what's happening with his spine, he's bending backward only at one or two vertebrae,
Oh,
whereas the middle
yeah,
of his spine is completely straight.
right.
So it's like one vertebrae out of 24 mobile segments of the spine. Health will be when every vertebrae bends a little bit at least. But on
Oh,
his back is only bending mainly at one vertebrae, which it's a little bit like a coat hanger. If you take a metal coat hanger, bend it back and forth 20 times, it will snap. So, it's sad in many ways that much yoga has become turned into contortionism, where the
Well,
body is just bending recklessly in one or two positions.
but
What
we
we
need to
want
be more
is
poetic and dance and
poetic, yes,
creative.
yes, get every vertebrae to move a little bit. Every joint should move a little bit. No one part of the body should work too hard, otherwise it wears out.
Yeah, thank you for that. And often in our area, Byron Bay, when we're walking through town or the park, we'll often see people playing together like this and just this is not yantra yoga. Yantra, if you yantra to me is the sacred geometry, the art that I work geometry. And when I see the yantra or the geometric art in the human body form, it's quite stunning for me. So is this kind of a form of yantra to you?
Sure, yeah. Every body position is a shape, you know. So what we want is to make beautiful shapes which flow more effortlessly. And that's why I was saying that that picture of the man before, he had like instead of a curve in his spine, he had more like a triangle. And, you know, anytime you want to make energy flow, if you have to make a jagged shape curve, you know, energy doesn't flow as well. So what you want are smooth curves. But when you make even the smooth curves of something like the flower of life, which you put a lot, then you can talk about the straight lines between each of the apexes of the sine wave curves. But if you actually make your body move in just jagged lines, it can cause a problem. But if you make your body make fluid movements, it can be much, much better. These are beautiful shapes. You know, it's wonderful to make shapes in the body.
I love collecting beautiful images. So back to 2 to the power of 5. I had a few images. So 2 to the power of 5, you're saying there's 32 movements that we can make from our core. Um,
32 extreme positions, yeah.
the only thing I know in sacred geometry about the number 32 is that there's a 32-degree angle in the golden spiral. This is a very pixelated image, but we've got the golden rectangle, which is pretty much the shape when you look at the palm of your hand, that rectangle. I mean, I'm a builder by trade, so I've got very square hands, but if you can see here that that's the shape of where like a MasterCard would fit. It's a golden rectangle. And the main thing about a golden rectangle is that there's a main diagonal and it's intersected by another shorter diagonal. So this is the square 1 by 1. So if this is 1, this is 0.618. So the whole thing is 1 by 1.618. To me, that's the key to the universe.
Yes.
Anyway, the
Vibration.
main diagonal or axis is the 32-degree angle. It's actually 31 point something, but we've rounded off to 32 degrees.
Ah,
So, so 32 degrees is this is according to the work of Dan Winter. He says that when you take a cube and you could rotate this, I'll just share screen. So when we take the cube here, and I can imagine you're going to blink 5 times, you're going to see the cube rotate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at that critical angle of 32 degrees.
yep.
So after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rotations, we go from the 3 dimensions of the cube to a fourth dimensional geometry called the
Wow.
dodeca. This is the symbol of the Pythagoreans for spirit, or what they called ether.
Wow.
This is actually a cube. So inside of this is 5 cubes. You can't see the cubes,
Ah,
but there's a shift in dimension and awareness from the 3D cube to the ultimate geometry in the universe is called the dodecahedron. I'll just show where the cube is in there. I forgot to show that image. Yeah, it's in here. So if you look at so the red line is the dodecahedron, 12 pentagons, but there's 5 cubes in there, and it's all about 32-degree tilt axis.
wow. That's amazing.
That
But
constitutes in sacred geometry the ether, the ultimate fire, earth, air, water, the ultimate union of everything is called the ether, and it's based on those 5 lots of 32-degree angles.
we see, for me, I talk about the five dimensions of the core, and I use the elements as the analogy. And for me, the ability for the core to expand and contract and change its volume or shape, that I call the ether dimension, because that creates the changes in shape in the body. And then when you do that, when you change the shape of the core, change the shape of the trunk, that expansion and contraction will pull and push air into you, but also makes blood flow inside the body. So one of the things that many people don't realize about the heart is that a healthy heartbeat is not just 60 beats per minute. That's actually sick. A healthy heartbeat is one that goes up and down. So when I'm moving in the ways that I was describing, as I lift my hips up and down and expand and contract my body, my heart rate, I can control it to go from 45 beats to 75 beats per minute, but every second it would change. Can I show you an image actually?
Is that on the heart rate HRV? And
Yes, yeah.
you also talk a little bit about do that and talk a little bit about the movement of the squid. I love
Yes, yes.
I love the image of
Yes.
the squid. Yeah.
Yeah, well, before I show the image in that case, most people think that the diaphragm just goes down and up, but it doesn't. Like I said, the baby's diaphragm, a healthy diaphragm, moves less down and up and more like a squid, where some fibers are going down and some fibers are going up. And because the diaphragm also connects to your psoas muscle or the muscle at the front of the hip, whenever you lift your hips up and down, whenever you extend or flex the hips, that will pull the diaphragm up and down as well. So when you're walking, one hip is flexing, one hip is extending. So your diaphragm, when it's moving naturally, is like two squids next to each other, one going up, one going down. But the combination, when you do it, can affect heart rate variability. So when this is something which is natural, but most people lose it because of the restricted way they walk and move. But when you see healthy movement, and this is something which I can replicate at any time, then what you get is the possibility of, where is it, beginning here. So this is my heart rate going up and down.
Right.
Where is it? So it happens whenever you breathe in healthily, heart rate should increase. But it's not about breathing in, it's about expanding the body and allowing air in. Because most people will find at a healthy stage, breathing in causes heart rate to increase, breathing out causes your heart rate to decrease. And it's often associated with inhalation increases sympathetic tone, and exhaling increases parasympathetic tone. That's why many people say you should exhale longer than you inhale. But actually, it's not about the air going in and out, it's about breathing. So when I'm doing the movements that I'm doing of simply going up and down like this, which is a main movement I use, then my heart rate as I come up and go down will increase to 75 beats per minute, down to 45 beats per minute in the space of 6 seconds. So I can be relaxed, and I can teach this to anyone. When you come up a little bit, heart rate goes up. When you go down a little bit, heart rate goes down. And I can do that with or without breathing, because the expansion, contraction of my body is happening at the same time. And this idea is what I call the ether component of changing the space inside your body, which which pushes and pulls air out of you, but it's also pulling more blood into the heart and more blood out of the heart. So whereas the average person will think that a healthy heart rate is about 60 beats per minute or 70 beats per minute, boom, boom, boom. That's not healthy. Healthy is a heart rate that goes up, boom, 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 and then goes down, boom, boom. And this is considered the ultimate in heart rate health or heart health. It's increased heart rate variability, which you see this beautiful sine wave, which is, these sine waves are all over your work on sacred geometry, and they form the peaks and troughs of the flower of life and things like that.
Kind of reminds me when you watch these movies about lie detectors by that galvanic skin response but would that heart wave also be like a lie detector? Would it
For
reveal
sure.
true energy and emotion going on inside that's hidden in the body? Yeah.
Yes, because usually if you're lying, your stress levels go up and the heart rate will increase, and then when you're relaxed and not lying, your heart rate will decrease. So you can really detect someone's level of internal trust and external honesty levels by the way their heart rate varies and their galvanic skin responses. For me, it's all about balancing your nervous system. And although we need a little bit of sympathetic flight or fight response in our body, most people live too much in that. So a lot of my work is about getting people to be more relaxed. And that, is controlling your body to affect your heart rate, but to also affect blood flow. And also doing this while you are more relaxed than stressed. Because most people their life is oscillating between doing nothing when they're asleep and doing too much when they're awake, which is either too much physical movement in the form of exercise, which often causes stress, or too much thinking, which causes stress. And often we think that sleeping is good for us and that exercise is good for us, but actually exercise causes too much stress. Sleeping does not move blood. But when you combine the two together with healthy movement, which is the movement of sacred geometry, then what you get is the benefits of sleep and exercise at the same time, which to me is the effects of true yoga or true qigong, which is different to exercise.
Wow, you've really changed my whole consciousness about movement. So if someone's just got to this video now they haven't seen before, a quick summary would be is be like a baby, move like a squid, walk like a sexy woman, you know. So
Yeah.
another thing you remind me of when we're talking about the body and the HRV heart rate, I understand that the membranes in the body that you're working with, they're all crystalline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I love your work on crystals, and it's always resonated with the idea that for many years now we've known that crystals are energy transducing devices which have what they call this piezoelectric effect. So that if you hit a crystal or you uh, inflict an energy source on one crystal with either mechanical force or electrical force or electromagnetic force, it can often change the energy. So when you strike a cigarette lighter, it's a mechanical force on a quartz crystal creates a spark. Or if you hit a gong, it's a crystalline gong which makes a sound. Or the old crystal radio sets, my father used to show me how you could just connect a crystal to a speaker and it will receive electromagnetic radio waves and turn them into sound. But of course, the body is full of crystalline lattices, the lattices of the muscle tissues, the connective tissue, and also the cell membranes are also crystalline lattices. So when you move your body the right way, you're actually giving mechanical pressure on the crystalline lattices in the body, which generate energy. But if you can make this energy move in a fluid way, you can harness energy. I believe that a healthy body should be like a perpetual motion machine that generates energy, not just sucks it up. And I think that's part of the true secrets of yoga and the various types of yogas with other names from all the traditional systems around the world. And I believe that really, if we understood how the body works and can tap into that internal natural energy of a baby and make it go from normal body to natural body to eventually supernatural bodies, you could see how some of these ancient mystics and monks of India, China, Tibet, and other cultures can do the amazing things that they can do, which seem supernatural. But I think it's tapping into this possibility of these crystalline lattices inside the body being impacted by the mechanical pressures that are created by the natural movement system that would be mirroring that of a baby.
So that's why you say we go from the natural to the supernatural, but we're really just being naturally natural. Like it's,
Yes. Well, a lot of people talk about yoga as being trying to access the supernatural, but they fail to take into account that that works well if you're a natural body. But most modern people are normal bodies living in a very unnatural world. So I think the first step that most people could make is stop trying to do crazy things and start going back to natural. Breathe more naturally like a baby does, move more naturally like a baby does, instead of locking our spine, forcing our core to be tense and taking very shallow breaths into the chest, which are just stressful breathing. Breathe naturally, breathe from your core. Don't lock your core. Make this the first step. Babies crawl and move freely. Adults just lock themselves and keep their shoulders back and down and tighten their anus and pelvic floor, tighten their abdomen in a way which just restricts natural breathing and natural movement and disconnects you from your core. And I think when you really connect with your core and the thinking brain and your core brain are one, you get this energy flow between them, which in yoga they call the kundalini rising. But really it's the idea of the subject and the object, the thinking brain and your action brain or gut brain working as one. That's the meditative state. And the meditative state is this beautiful stage of living where you're in the zone or flow state of the athlete, where supreme health takes place physically, physiologically, and mentally. Beautiful chakra systems, yeah.
yeah. So by becoming more flexible, where the body is so intelligent, the crystalline lattice, it's actually remembering how to emit its natural frequencies again. The body will heal itself if
Yes.
we allow it to. And
Yes. The most important thing is to recognize our bodies are connected places, and you can see it in the patterns which you see in the Vitruvian Man, which Leonardo da Vinci had put, and you see how every part of the body relates to every part in this phi ratio, which is this golden rectangle that you were talking about, where the diagonal makes this 32-degree angle. And when you recognize that we are connected as one, then what we need to do is stop blocking that connection. And what blocks it is too much tension, too much stretching, too much breathing, too much thinking. And that's the first step of establishing connection. Just stop blocking the connections inside the body. And then to enhance these connections, it helps if you move naturally, if you move fluidly from the core of your body, rather than most people's linear, jagged movements and locking the core and tensing the core and breathing into the chest in a way which is just ill health, actually. That's a beautiful image.
so that reminds me of meditation. Every day we must do some activity, but also to find time to be still, to find stillness in our life as well.
Well, when people talk about meditation, obviously it's good to have these still meditative places, but often people misunderstand meditation to be a place where there's total stillness. Yes, it's stillness in the mind, maybe stillness in the heart and the breath, but actually inside the body, energy should flow very effortlessly. So when I first saw meditation, Jane, I saw my Tibetan Lama sitting naked in the snow. So although the outside was still, the inside, the energy was flowing effortlessly. So that's difficult for the modern person to do. So I find that dynamic meditation often is better for the modern body. Since we sit still in chairs for 5 to 15 hours a day on average, modern people would be better off getting up and moving in a meditative way. And that movement in a meditative way might be akin to the athlete moving in the zone or the flow state. And that flow state or zone, I think, is the meditative state in movement. And I think a combination of both is good. But people misunderstand meditation to be a little bit too still. What we want in meditation is to have blood flowing. And blood flowing is the key to your energy levels, to your internal health. That's really paramount to important.
Well, we've been about 45 minutes. I'd like you to, if you want to go onto your PowerPoint and show us a few other things before we close off in about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So
sure.
if
Let me
there's
have a
anything
look.
else you want to talk about, and I mean, we could talk for hours, but I'll keep it
Yeah,
to 1 hour today.
yeah, sure. Up, share. So I didn't make much of a PowerPoint yet, but the idea that sacred geometry is within the body already, and when you can recognize that it's there and enhance the movements, it can really make a big difference using your posture, movement, breathing, and also mental control for health, happiness, and longevity. And that the body has got these 5 ways of moving at the core, which are bending forward and backwards, side to side, twisting, lengthening and shortening, and expanding and contracting. And when you see this, it makes this pentagram-like structure, which is very akin to what you were talking about with the Pythagorean thing. And this movement can happen very ideally if you see how the diaphragm moves. And the diaphragm essentially is the top of the core, which you see in a dome-like shape like this, but also when you see it from underneath, you can see how it can expand and contract and move up or down. But actually, it moves much more like a squid when it moves with natural movement, up, down, side to side. And it can make these incredible squid-like patterns, which are very, very smooth and wave-like in their movements.
Mhm.
And the spine itself, when it moves in three-dimensional space, actually doesn't move left, right, up, or down. It moves in these spirals, and these spirals relate very much to this golden mean, this phi ratio, which is right through the body. And this is also emphasized when you have natural breathing and natural heart rate variability, which has this sine wave like movement in and out of, whenever the body breathes naturally, the peak of health is recognized by this sine wave like movement, which happens in your heart rate, but it's emphasized by correct breathing. And that's emphasized best when you just relax and breathe naturally. In fact, one of the funny things about heart rate variability is that it's one of the biggest indicators of internal health. And what you always see is children's heart rate varies much more than adults' heart rate.
Yeah.
But when you regulate your breathing in a controlled way, which is the art of yogic breathing, when done properly, then this starts to happen automatically.
Um,
But better than trying to regulate breathing is to regulate your movement. And regulating movement will regulate breathing. So, like I was saying before, when you go up and down, left and right in the body, that starts to not just regulate your heart rate variability and your breathing, it also starts to synchronize left and right side of brain. And so, what we really want is the left and right side of the brain equally working, which will get this crossover effect that you were talking about. Which, when you make the crossover fluid, what you see is this figure eight or infinity sign. And so, these movements really, when you make the body flow in a really beautiful way in 5 dimensions, in this way you get the optimal levels of health in the mind, your joints, your core, your breathing, and your energy starts to really shift, and you get optimum health physically, physiologically, mentally, socially, and also in terms of your lifestyle and financial health as well.
Beautiful.
It's a
Wow.
very short way of saying a lot of things, but
Yeah.
essentially, I want to say thank you to you because, in the very beginning of my exploration of the body, when I first met you, I started to recognize that sacred geometry was very, very important, and it is present inside the body, and it's present most obviously at birth. And when you see that in children, but you also see it in elite athletes, how they move, and you also see it in the yogis of India, China, and Tibet. They all have different names, different masters of these traditional movement forms. Even we have it in Australia with the indigenous people here who can do incredible things and sleep naked outside in the freezing cold. The body is capable of amazing things when you really tap into it and tap into the sacred geometry of the body. You can start to have incredible levels of energy, incredible levels of health. I'm almost the same age as you. We're about the same age in our 60s, and people often are amazed because I only sleep about 3 or 4 hours a night. I love going dancing a few times a week, and I have good energy. I'm not perfect, but I feel very healthy at my age, and I think I really have to acknowledge and thank all my wonderful teachers from India and China for this, but also my Western teachers like you, Jane, who have taught me about the mathematics of the body and the sacred geometry inside the body.
Well, I need to do more dancing. So talking to you reminds me I've got to do my bit more dancing. And while you were talking about all the five movements of flow, this if this person inside the field, the torus field, with these movements that you talk about flexibility and natural flow, are we just exploring the field around us, the toroidal field around us,
Yes.
essentially?
Well,
Yeah.
when you really practice in the right way, people start to feel a field, which you can manifest between your hands. So the energy that flows inside us flows outside of us. People can actually start to feel that we don't stop at the ends of our body, but our energy field goes beyond it. And you can see this. I've got beautiful images which I made at RMIT University where I used to lecture. And so when I'm doing simple movements like side bending and twisting like this, right now my left side is compressed and pushes blood, my right side pulls blood. And so my temperature of my body on my left side is 32 degrees, my right side is 37 degrees. And if I make a simple shift, I push the blood. So now my right side is 32 degrees, my left side is 37. So when I'm moving in these ways I've described, I'm actually pumping blood through the body, not by using my heart, but by turning my whole body into one big functional pump. And then blood is flowing so effortlessly that the energy that's generated can be felt outside the body. And so with an infrared camera, you see not just different regions of hot and cold inside the body as it moves, but also a field that goes outside the body. So we really are playing not just within our body, but we're connecting with the universe outside it. This is an amazing thing, but you can see it on infrared cameras, you can feel it, and the less you block your energy and the more you move it and make that your aim, the more you start to feel connected in a most amazing way around the world and the universe.
Lovely. I just want to be more like a squid now. You've got me thinking about squid energy, so it's lovely.
Your body's amazing. I've always been amazed how well that you have this resonance between the thinking brain inside you, but also you're an amazing builder and you actually manifest it so well. And actually, as a person also in your 60s, I think you're a peak example of health as well.
Well, I'm not. I'm doing my best because most of my life I'm a researcher. I'm sitting, which is
Yes.
like the second cancer. They say sitting is the main cancer in the world. So
Yeah.
I have to get up and do a lot of activity. So every day I'll try and do something in the garden. So I'm not doing my yoga and my dance, but I'm always doing some activity, whether I'm building. Yeah, but I notice that I go to bed every night around 2 a.m. in the morning, and because I love being under the stars at night, and because I don't know all your techniques, even though you've showed them to me, I find I just make up any movement because
It's fine.
it makes me realize that everything you're saying is that we just need to stretch and move our body and be more jelly-like rather than stiff. So because I've
Yes.
been sitting for hours, I just make, I mean, I used to do Tai Chi when I was at university. I had the most amazing Chinese teacher and he taught me the 108 steps. But what
Good.
I've done is I've bastardized it and changed it to suit myself. And I just make it up,
It's
with
fine.
horse
It's,
stroking the
yes.
tail or.
Yes. Jane, that as a physiotherapist, the two axioms that stuck with me most, which come from the world of physiotherapy, are sitting is the new smoking,
Yeah,
and
what it says.
exercise is optional, but movement is essential. So any movement is really good. And the movement that I do that's the most key for most people is the most is to move are the places which bridge your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. And if you like, the conscious mind lives in the head, but the unconscious mind is the seat of your core, which I'm saying moves in 5 ways. But the way you can connect with it is often people say breathing is the link between body and mind, but it's not actually your breathing. It's about your diaphragm. And the diaphragm is a place you can control both consciously and unconsciously. But the diaphragm is only one of 12 places in the body which can do this. And I list these 12 places in 5 ways, in 6 different places. Your face has got lots of bridges between conscious and unconscious, like your eyes can blink consciously, but if you move your hand in front, they'll blink unconsciously. And so has your jaw and your lips got conscious and unconscious control. So I get people to move their lips, their jaw, their eyes. Also, other places which bridge conscious and conscious and unconscious are your fingers and shoulders. So I get people to connect with their body by moving their fingers, moving their shoulders, moving their neck, moving their face, moving their pelvic floor and their abdomen. And if you just do these simple movements, already you start connecting conscious with unconscious, blood starts flowing, your nervous system becomes more balanced. So what you're doing in your own, seemingly natural way is actually a really good way of connecting, reconnecting what is already a connected place, but which often becomes disconnected through the unnatural lifestyle that we have. So I say to everyone, get off your chair, move your fingers, move your shoulders, move your neck, move your pelvic floor, move smoothly, move effortlessly, tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, but move more. Be more relaxed.
Beautiful note to end. I just
Yeah.
love the way how you take this ancient knowledge and redefine it for the modern man, woman. So thank you for that. And if people want to know more about where you are, what you're doing, and they want to watch some of your practices and videos, where can they go to? Can you show us your
I share
website?
on the screen again, maybe it's the easiest way of doing it. And what I have is I have two websites that one is under my name. It's simonborgolivier.com, and I call it different names, but it's to restore natural movement, through simple posture movement and breathing. Could be traditional yoga for the modern body. It's simonborgolivier.com. And I also have another website which I call healthhappinesslongevity.co, where you can join the membership, and there's a free level. You can start at no cost and get access to lots of movement practices, or you can do a monthly subscription to get much more access to these things. And yeah, I'm happy to help people. People can write to me if they go on simonborgolivier.com. They can already subscribe for my newsletter, and I send out links to free classes that I do, live free classes, or you can get some free notes and stuff like that. It's yeah, I really want to share this stuff. I'm like you, Jane. We have this passion and we want to share it. Passion is really the essence of love, And love, I think, is the connecting, unifying force of the universe. And, I think that if people recognize they're connected, the only way you connect is through love. And when we connect, then we, make the world a better place. And so I love to share my work as you do, and I'm happy to respond to people if they
As
write.
we become more flexible and ease, abundance and health will just arise. It's because it's our natural state.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Simon. I'll let you go on that note, and thanks for teaching us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dane. It's a pleasure to be with you and keep up the fantastic work you do. My children are now grown up, but they really benefited from what you gave them. And, I benefited from what you gave me. So thank you for your wonderful work.
I
Bless you.
learned from all my students, so thank you so much.
I say the same.
Bye.
Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Bye.